Hi, this is Frid from The Joy of Syntax and English in Color. One of my very faithful YouTube subscribers asked me to please help him with a homework. And so I have done that. He had to work on some questions. He had to replace prepositional phrases that were functioning as adverbials by adverbs functioning as adverbials. And so I just copied the sentences that he sent me and then did the homework for him. And I also want to, I want to share that with him and everybody who is interested. And I also want to explain why I think that such homework is actually harmful and at best a waste of time. Okay, here I'll share my screen. And here we go. Okay, so the task said replace each adverb phrase by an adverb, and this instruction reveals that the teacher who assigned this homework cannot tell the difference between an adverb and an adverb phrase and a prepositional phrase and an adverbial. Well, that's pretty sad. Now, we all make mistakes and we don't need to know everything, but it's always unfortunate when we are in a hierarchy and we are in a power structure and we can dictate to people and then give them tasks that are useless, right? Anyway, the homework raised a number of issues. I won't go into all of them, but I'll help you with a little bit. Okay, so I'll just go through this a little bit. We always have to distinguish between the form, so the form of a word or a structure, and a function that it can play or that it can perform within a framework. As an example, when I have the noun Tom, I have the word Tom. I see it's a noun. It's a proper noun. It's a name of a person. And it can function as the subject in a sentence. For instance, Tom is my friend. Then the noun Tom functions as a subject. The noun Tom can also function as an object. I can see Tom over there. Then it's an object. It can be a predicate complement, aka subject predicative, or complement to the subject in such a sentence. This is my friend Tom. Oh, this is Tom. Okay, this is Tom. It can be an apposition, as in this is my friend Tom, etc., etc. So you see, we have to distinguish between word, and words can be classed into or put into categories called word classes, aka parts of speech. So when I say, oh, okay, Tom is a noun, is a proper noun, and to go is a verb, and beautiful is an adjective, then I am categorizing words in accordance with word classes. And word classes look in some way at the role that a word can play. Like when I say it's an adjective, then I know that it can modify a noun. But it also looks at meaning, so somehow we have to know the meaning of the word in order to know what sort of a function it can have. And the function of an adjective, then when I look at the word classes, I look at words in a different way than when I look at clause elements. Like when I say, okay, I have a sentence with, or for instance, we have the sentence here, the bodies were mangled in a terrible manner. Then I have, when we look at word classes, we say, okay, this is an article. Some people call it a determiner. Some people just say it's an article. Then we have the noun bodies in the plural. Then we have a form of the verb to be, the past tense, plural. Then we have an a past participle that helps, and there are two views about this. We can say that in this case it helps to form the passive voice verb phrase. And then we have a preposition in, and then we have an indefinite article, we have an adjective, and then another noun. And these together, this thing together is a prepositional phrase. Now, when I look at the function of these words, we can see that this article and this noun together form the subject. So it's a noun phrase functioning as subject in a clause. Here, the link verb to be in the past were plus the past participle form the passive voice verb phrase if we go with this view of the sentence. And then we have the prepositional phrase as adverbial of manner. Now, this is just one way of analyzing the sentence. Depending on what philosophy of thought or what linguistic school you're from, you can see it differently. One way to see it differently is to say that we have a link verb and then we have a predicate complement that's headed by a past participle. And the past participle is modified by a prepositional phrase. And these together, mangled in a terrible manner, they form, and here again, we could say they form a participle construction that's used as a predicate complement, aka subject predicative, aka subject complement to the subject, or we can say that it functions. Anyway, some could even say this participle functions as an adjective, but I wouldn't go there. I would still say it's a participle because we see that. But anyway, we still see that there's some action, some received action. So I do like this interpretation in this particular case because we see that something was done to the bodies. They were the recipient of action. But you see, it depends on so many different perspectives of how you want to analyze the sentence. And anyway, I hope I haven't confused you. I'm trying to fit a lot of information into a short space of time. But back to the task. So the task said to replace the adverb phrase. Well, this is not an adverb phrase. This is a prepositional phrase. So we have the preposition as the head verb, and then we have a noun phrase following. So a prepositional phrase always consists of a preposition plus a noun phrase or a noun-like structure, and a noun phrase, or a nominal clause. So if we want to replace that by an adverb, that works. So this is functioning as adverbial. We have a prepositional phrase functioning as adverbial, and it can be replaced by an adverb functioning, an adverbial modifier. So in this case, this wouldn't be an adverbial. It would be an adverb, a modifier of the participle. This raises a big issue that I cannot tackle now, but I'm very willing to tackle it in another video if you're interested. Anyway, we can say the bodies were terribly mangled. Okay, now the next sentence that was given to this poor student was, let us cease the work from this very moment. I think this sounds awful. It doesn't sound like idiomatic English to me. We could say, let us cease work immediately. So from this very moment, I wouldn't say it in this sentence. I must say that again. So from this moment on, anyway, let's forget about this. There are many things that bother me about this type of homework. One is, obviously, the teacher doesn't really understand the difference between words and phrases and clause elements and words and word classes, so there's the issue of words and then word classes, phrases, and clause elements. So those that are all categories that you need to explain to students and that the teacher needs to understand in order to be able to explain them. Then we shouldn't really use sentences out of context. Out of context. Sometimes it's okay if you explain the existence of certain structures. If you use a sentence as a springboard for explanation, that's different from giving a student a sentence out of context without enough information and then giving him this boring task. Anyway, so because the person asked me to, I did this homework, but I would never assign it, and I'm not really fond of it. Anyway, I've quoted here an example from one of Oxford's dictionaries. They voted to see strike action immediately. Now, what I recommend instead of doing a task like this is you explain grammar holistically and you explain what structures exist in English and how they work. And I do that, by the way, in my grammar book, which is The Joy of Syntax and the Zen of Grammar Practice. I mention it here. You can go to my website, thejoyofsyntax.com, and look at the book. And from there, you find a button to go to Balboa Press where you can order it. And I explain all of English syntax in color, in simple language. And then the next step is that one looks at texts and tries to find the structures that one made friends with. And then that's a good basis for learning to create sentences. And the next step after, the first step is to understand what structures exist. The next step is to be able to recognize these structures in good models, in good prose. And then it's actually really fun to take good sentences apart and put them back together in the original. And then you can play other games with sentences. And then you can slowly ease into creation yourself. And while you create, it's very important to learn to use the internet and good texts and good dictionaries to help you come up with whatever you want to say. Anyway, it's a long story and it's too long for now, but I just want to give you a little idea of the type of homework that would be fruitful. Anyway, so the third sentence. It was just on that spot that he died. This is a cleft sentence, and we can't really easily replace on that spot in it was just on that spot that he died. That actually was even left out. Okay, I just copied the sentences from the homework. So this is, it was just on that spot that he died. That's a cleft sentence. I also explained that in my grammar book. In order to be able to replace the prep phrase on that spot, we need to create a sentence without cleft construction. He died on that spot. And then we can replace on that spot by the adverb there. He died there. And if we want to catch the meaning of just and include it, we can say he died right there. That's one option. Okay, next sentence. The child replied with perfect truthfulness. Can be the child replied truthfully. Again, I think that this original sentence is klutzy. I almost suspect that the teacher came up with sentences like these and then replaced the adverb and then gave the job to the kids to find the original. I don't know. Anyway, the child replied truthfully would be one option. He arrived at that moment, I would say. At that moment, so that would be much better. I still think that it's not a nice sentence, but anyway, he arrived then would be possible, but he arrived safely. Then we have a sentence that sounds good, means something else though. I hope that he will come at an earlier date. The teacher left out the N, which we need because the next word starts with a vowel sound. I hope that it will come earlier. He seems to have acted with great promptitude becomes he seems to have acted promptly, which is a much better version than this one. This one is not nice. Asterisks always indicate that the sentence has a problem. No one would dare to answer him in an impudent way, also very klutzy. No one would dare to answer him impudently. Yeah, well. I accept your statement without reserve becomes I unreservedly accept your statement. Reserve and reserved. Reserve is the pronunciation of the noun. Reserved is the participle or the adjective, and then unreservedly is the adverb. That's interesting. Unreservedly, the pronunciation changes. I thank you with all my heart. That's quite difficult to turn into. Well, actually, I found it impossible to replace the preposition with all my heart. I'm not saying there is no solution. I just couldn't find it. So I actually went with an adjective solution. You have my heartfelt thanks. That is actually an idiomatic sentence, but heartfelt is then an adjective modifying the noun thanks. So you have my heartfelt thanks. He succeeded in the long run. Oh, that's a very unidiomatic sentence. You will succeed in the long run would be a sentence that sounds good to me. But anyway, he succeeded eventually. He eventually succeeded. It would be okay, I guess. He is ignorant to a proverb. That's bullshit, at least to my ears. I don't know. I think the only option would be his ignorance is proverbial, or he is very ignorant, or he is shockingly ignorant. Yeah, we could write that there. He is very ignorant, and we have an adverb, but it's not an adverbial, but an adverb modifier. He is shockingly ignorant. There. Now we have another exam. Well, that's better than. It's closer to what this silly teacher wanted. The postboy. Postboy is a very old-fashioned word. I suspect that the teacher meant mailman. Anyway. Oh, and I didn't solve the post. I don't even know what he means. Let's leave that out. I think it's a silly sentence, and I don't know what he wants to say. He drove way too fast. He drove very fast. I don't know. The mailman drove very fast. I don't know. Then we have fast is an adverb. Very fast is an adverb phrase, and it functions as adverbial of manner, modifying drove. And by the way, some modern linguists or modern grammarians would say very fast is an adverbial. Traditional grammarians would say it's an adverbial modifier of the verb drove. And some people would, let's do this color parse quickly to show you. This is an interesting point. Some people would color parse, well, nobody color parses, that's a Frick thing, but some people would say, okay, we have our subject, the mailman, we have our verb, drove, and then we have our adverbial of manner, very fast. But there is, you could also say we have our subject, and then we have a verb phrase. So the verb phrase is to drive very fast. So, and then this very fast is the adverbial modifier of the verb. I hope that you understand the difference between a sentence adverbial and an adverbial modifier inside of another phrase. If not, that would actually be a good topic for a video. He has been painted in his proper colors is a bullshit sentence. I don't know. This painting truly captures his essence, was a guess I had. By saying that, he revealed his true colors. Those are two ways. I don't know whether the teacher meant that, but those are two correct sentences that mean something. They're grammatically correct and they could be useful. The wind blew with great violence, also a classy sentence. The wind blew violently is a better sentence. With great violence, again, it's a prep phrase. We have the same business here. Violently can be considered an adverbial, or can be considered an adverbial modifier of the verb to blew. So here we could say it's an adverbial of manner, and here we can say it's an adverbial modifier. Of course, it's one of manner, but again, we could do the same color parsing spiel we did up here. He has proved his case to my satisfaction. What the teacher wanted and what would be a better solution for this sentence is, I think that he has satisfactorily proved his case. And by the way, here's a nice example sentence from one of my favorite dictionaries. My questions have been answered satisfactorily, so that you have another example of how you could use the adverb satisfactorily. Okay, that's my homework, my solution. I finally made you the video. I hope that you like it, and yeah, I hope that your teacher will stop giving you these stupid homework assignments. And well, if you want a fun grammar book, buy my Joy of Syntax, and stay tuned and give me nice grammar questions, please. I don't want to do stupid homework assignments. I want to have fun grammar practice. I want to engage in fun grammar practice. I must say, though, that sometimes bad grammars, boring grammar books, or bad grammar books and bad grammar assignments are fruitful because they inspire interesting talks. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.